In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only a war. These brooding words are the basis of Games Workshop's 40K series. And since its release in 1987, it has become the world's best known miniature war game. The truth is that the Warhammer series has a pretty rich lore that's written in-house and sold through licensed books and games. My question then is there enough meat in Dawn of War 3 to pull in a person that is unaware of the larger universe? Or is it just another means for the fans to empty their bank accounts? While not the first RTS to exist, the Age of Empires series has been a staple in the genre. Dawn of War 3 and Age of Empires has many similarities. The player collects resources, builds buildings, and units to conquer the opponent. The first major difference is the way you collect resources. AoE has you build settlers that you then send to hunt, mine, and chop wood. This puts resources on a time limit, making them increasingly more valuable as you go along. Your economy ultimately is based on individual mobile units that are easier to manage in groups, but easier to defend when they're separated. Dawn of War 3 approaches it in a different way. Resources are infinite, yet tied to command posts that need to be conquered and defended. As a result, combat is generally encouraged. The units are also streamlined, making the rock, paper, scissors elements more negligible and easier to manage than AoE, and at a much lower learning curve than a game like Beyond All Reason. Would I say that Dawn of War 3 is better than Age of Empires? No, well, at least not Dawn of War 3. But there is another game in this series that might be worth mentioning. There's no doubt that this game looks good. The cutscenes are visual spectacles that could easily carry a full-length film. The in-game graphics are arguably the best amongst the RTS games I've ever played. But this is to be expected from a product that is in the market of selling paint-it-yourself miniatures. The game even offers a unit painter mode, so you can customize the colors and insignia of the units in-game, and maybe try it out for your miniatures at home. The music, on the other hand, is negligible, largely being background noise for maps rather than being pivotal enhancements for gameplay. The combat sounds are okay, but they aren't super punchy, but they do the job. Ultimately, this doesn't stop me from wanting the dropships from having a hard-hitting thud as they launch enemy troops in the air when they land. The first thing I noticed about the gameplay is how close the camera feels to the ground. While this is probably caused by the scale of the buildings, the camera actually provides a decent amount of coverage that could benefit from being able to zoom out a little more. The combat is simpler than other games. Units basically boil down to melee, medium range, and long range abilities in light, heavy, and vehicle variants. The rock, paper, scissors of combat feels marginally more streamlined than a game like AoE. The AI, on the other hand, seems intent on letting themselves get shot until you make them respond. Well, this is likely caused by longer ranged units outranging the AI's awareness. It feels nearly as bad as Age of Empire Remastered's AI pathing. While the overall feel of combat is standard affair, it is a step down from Dawn of War 2, in my opinion. Units of Dawn of War 2 are not only more aware of enemy units, but they can also interact with the environment. Hovering over a wall while you have units selected will display green dots that each member will go to when they arrive at their destination. They then take cover and allow you to set up ambushes and crossfire lanes. This provides for more practical tactics, and the fact that they reverted to the original Dawn of War's stand there and shoot mechanics while bullets largely ignore objects in the world is a real shame. The defensive points that were added to this game honestly are pretty cool, but they suffer from poor placement, often being too far away from other strategic objectives. The story of Dawn of War 3 is a little weak. While not impossible for an outsider to understand, it can be difficult to understand the motives and power structure of the parties involved. The presentation of characters feels pretty impersonable and fails to draw interest or feelings for any of the characters or their goals. Unfortunately, this continues throughout, and I gave up on the story to move on to other projects. Dawn of War 3 isn't very accessible. While all spoken dialogue is subtitled in English, there are no other languages in the in-game settings. For a modern game representing an increasingly mainstream franchise, this isn't acceptable. All necessary controls and abilities can be accessed using only one hand, which is a plus, but most RTS games employ similar control schemes, so it doesn't really stand out from anything. Difficulty options are also fairly decent, allowing most players to be able to finish the game, if they so choose. Dawn of War 3 isn't very convenient. While it does have physical copies floating around, the only digital version I was able to find was on Steam. Settings options are good enough to allow you to play the game on lower end hardware. However, button mapping isn't available, so the settings aren't up to par. I didn't really encounter any bugs when I played, but one thing I did notice is that bullets can go through certain items on the map. And this doesn't feel like a feature, but maybe I'm wrong, so just be careful where you place your... While the graphics of Dawn of War 3 is impressive, I can't really say the same for the rest of the game. Gameplay is functional, but doesn't really stand out from any other RTS. In ways, it's a downgrade from the previous title, and the story isn't doing anything to draw me in. Multiplayer is also basically dead. My brother and I played it once, and it took us a while to get it working, and when it did, it crashed halfway through the match. While the problem might have been on our ends, overall the experience wasn't great. Honestly, if I was to judge Dawn of War 3 just on its accessibility and convenience, then it would barely escape a don't play. However, despite its problems, I think Dawn of War 3 gets a meh. It's painfully average, and while there are some features that I do like over other RTS games, I honestly can't say it deserves a better score than what I gave Duke Nukem Forever. But this makes me curious to see what you think of Dawn of War 3, so let me know in the comments and consider subscribing for more content. If you like this review, then check out my one on Wars and Roses, which is an adult tactical shooter. Either way, I'll see you there. Bye.